and welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we have another amazing guest to introduce to you now. Angela Parsons is a dedicated mother of three and a seasoned professional with a 20-year corporate career.
Hi there, Joanna here, OneCuriousCarnivore. I'm going to give you a little summary review of an interview that I watched on YouTube, and I would really like, if you're interested in lipedema, to watch it too. So my goal is to give you a little summary with not too many of my two bobs in there, and hopefully encourage you to go listen to the full interview, which is a lot longer than hopefully my 10 minutes. You can find Angela at thehealingblossom.com, and you can listen to her interview at Boundless Body LLC on YouTube. So this video is called Lipedema and the Carnivore Diet with Angela Parsons on Boundless Body Radio. A really, really delightful interview to listen to. You can listen to it like in the car, while you're driving. It's not always necessary to watch YouTube videos. Okay, so this video involves lipedema, EDS, which is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a connective tissue disorder, hypermobility type stuff, and butyrylcholinesterase, I think it's called, enzyme deficiency, which causes a sensitivity to alkaloids in nightshades. Okay, so there's a little bit of advice that comes at the beginning, which is lipedema needs to be managed, so early diagnosis is really essential. I totally agree with that. It seems that 60 to 80% of lipedema sufferers are hypermobile, which means your joints are too flexible. I suffer from that. Everything with my lipedema seems to be mild, but it's there. It seems 60 to 80% of lipedema sufferers are hypermobile. I am also hypermobile. I have known of all these symptoms all of my life. Never knew that they were all connected. Never knew. Okay, so very interesting things that Angela notices along the way in her journey. She noticed an excess use of bug spray at one time made her lipedema weight balloon up. So that's an influence of toxicity. She also noticed an excessive usage of Roundup, which is made up primarily of glyphosate, gave her chronic fatigue. I seem to have a adverse reaction to constantly having glyphosate in my system too. Antibiotics destroyed her gut. Did you know that glyphosate was patented as an antibiotic? Just a little tidbit from me there. She was always catching colds and flu and was taking more and more antibiotics. It's a story that many of us have lived. She wasn't getting solutions, so she began looking into more natural therapies, and this led her down the plant-based road, which is not uncommon. She tried a plant-based detox diet, and she found it really, really hard to complete, but she did feel better because of the amount of detoxing that must have happened. She stayed away from gluten and dairy during that time, but she did increase her oxalates, which later on she found out were not good, and the nightshades, which she later found out were not good. And she began to gain weight and feel worse again. So Angela educated herself on plant-based eating and decided fitness. That's the route she's going to go. She's going to get as fit as possible. She suffered huge criticisms from her boyfriend at that time regarding her weight. Her new boyfriend, I think the one after that, encouraged her to cycle, bicycling, and she competed even. She was that into it and was so sore. She was increasing her lipedemic tissues because I think of the stress. I think that's what she was referring to. So her lipedema, which is the connective tissue combined with fat tissue. So it's like a thickened pad of connective tissue, like a web, not flat, sort of three-dimensional shape, that is interlaced with fat cells. So everything is very stuck together, and a lot of fluid stays around in those fat in those tissues. So her lipedema was increasing. She wasn't given any advice that helped, and she felt like she tried everything. She also noticed when she had her tonsils out, she had a friend say, "Oh, it was great. I lost lots of weight because I couldn't eat." And she was looking forward to losing weight because she couldn't eat. And she had her tonsils out. She recovered very well, and she wasn't eating very much, but she didn't lose any weight. Slowly, her arms were getting bigger. So lipedema arms, all of this here is actually full of scar tissue and up in here too. So lipedema, you're going to have lumpy fat and likely to have stretch marks on your skin where it's expanded fast. It's all part of the connective tissue, elastin, collagen balance, or imbalance, I suppose. Okay, so her arms were getting bigger. She had a lot of swelling, and she was constantly blaming herself. This is starting to feel familiar to you. Need to get on it. She was doing an aerial yoga class, and she did the splits because, you're suspended, so it's not your entire body weight. So I think that was the first time she actually noticed, because she was around other people and they were not able to do as much of the splits as her, and she was bigger, but she was doing the splits. A bit like me. I can't do the splits, but I'm much more bendy than other people. That was the first time she noticed how hypermobile she is in her joints, and yet at the same time, the instructor berated her for other strength-related inabilities. So, more self-blame. Her pain was increasing and causing her to do less, but she kept pushing herself. She's a high achiever, this woman. She still kept getting bigger. She was in a caloric deficit, but kept tightening up fats and calories, but was still getting bigger with lipomas all over her body. Life was getting really stressful for her. Doing fertility treatments, she said 165 pounds was her highest weight, and her legs and arms were already large, and pregnancy was really, really painful for her. She was also encouraged and accepted to take the DTaP vaccination during the pregnancy, and she had so much more pain. The doctors couldn't explain why she was in so much pain, and their advice was absolutely useless. She was eating a lot of plants, she says. Her breasts grew, but she had no milk. She ended up leaving work. She was in pain. She had brain fog. Memory was really bad. The doctor excused it away and told her to wait until she finished breastfeeding. She finished breastfeeding and there was no change. She discovered lipedema from a mother's group member. This is why we all need to talk about lipedema and the people we know who have lipedema, and lipedema is a thing, and this is what we understand about lipedema. Her doctor blew her off when she brought that information to her, so she did some research and brought it to her doctor, and then her doctor agreed. So there's a little explanation, Angela's explanation of lipedema, and I'll whip through that really quickly. So it's fibrotic fat, not smooth fat. So it feels like peas or beads or walnuts under the skin. It's irregularly distributed on your legs and your arms, perhaps hips and stomach, usually below the belly button. the lymph is disrupted and gets stagnant in those tissues, the lipedema areas can swell. So compression is a good strategy for management. It is painful for many. I have only mild pain, which I'm grateful for. I think I used to have a lot more pain, but keto and carnivore have really tampered that down. For some, it aches and burns. You can have issues with chronic fatigue. A lot of lipedema sufferers have similar presentation as fibromyalgia, even though it's not. But it is alluding to it being autoimmune. When lipedema is not managed, you can cause yourself to have lymphedema, which is the fluid holding in the body, in the limbs of the body. And your regular fat is generally difficult to lose, and your lipidemic fat seems almost impossible. So back to Angela's story. She changed her diet and she took out nightshades, and she finally saw a lipedema specialist. The lipomas, which is a familial disorder, was diagnosed, and she discovered family members also suffer from this. The nightshades out of the diet, the pain dropped off, which is great. And she also discovered that caffeine also causes pain, even if you're not aware of it, because it's also causing some pleasure. It's also causing some pain. Also common with lipedema is the venous insufficiency, but it was difficult to know if the that problem with the veins is causing the pain or other parts of lipedema causing the pain. Yeah, and that really difficult to pronounce word at the beginning, cholinesterase, those enzymes, caffeine inhibits those, which is problematic. So if you're tossing up whether you should give up coffee, you should give up coffee. You should give up things that have caffeine. Coffee is coffee. Some people have coffee without caffeine in it. Finally, she knew that her big thighs, as she called them, are not her fault. It's occurring to me. The more I understand about lipedema, the more I don't have to guess about why these things happen to my body and with my body. So her other doctors are not confident in diagnosing, but they're becoming aware. So it is really important to get informed yourself, because your doctors are going to deny it because they don't know about it. They've not been told about it. It's not being talked about. Women's health issues, especially to do with fat, are not being talked about. We have to start the conversation. So Angela also had trouble losing her regular body fat regardless of eating very little. So it's affecting her metabolism. I'm sorry, I'm going over. It has affected her daughter as well. So if you listen to the interview, you'll hear more about that. She discovered Sally Norton, Dr. Sally Norton, and so Dr. Sally Norton is really worth listening to. The oxalate poisoning, that was the point. When she realized how problematic the oxalate poisoning has been to her, with how that's created dysfunction in her life, she decided to go carnivore. All the excess fat and swelling went away. Almost all the pain is gone. Yeah, carnivore. So, how to identify lipedema? Go with your instincts. Know the truth about diet and nutrition. Watch your body. Familiarize yourself with lipedema and what it looks like. Don't be frightened to try the carnivore diet. All very sage advice from Angela. Some of the therapies that you can use compression leggings, vibration plates, perhaps even a rebounder if you're not in too much pain already. There are surgeries that can help, but you really, really need, this is from me, you really need to make sure that whoever is offering you the surgeries has done work with lipedema patients. And there's not a lot of talk about lipedema. So there are different kinds of surgery. And through the Lipedema Project, you can find out that information. So, and I'm going to do more on their website and the information that's coming from them, because I think it's really important to just have it out there. The dietary advice that's out there medically, the modern mainstream medical advice, is incorrect, according to Angela. It's not addressing oxalates, enzyme deficiencies. It says it is low inflammation, but it isn't. Carnivore is low inflammation, but they don't talk about carnivore because that's a little bit too wild. So Angela recommends you buying, or at least reading, Sally Norton's book, Toxic Superfoods. I think that's really good advice. And you can find Angela at thehealingblossom.com. She has a couple of Facebook pages, groups. I'm not sure which is which. One is at Nightshade Free, and the other one is at The Healing Blossom. I really hope you look up this video. I'm going to put a link down in the show notes so that you can just find it and click it. If you would like any kind of coaching, advice, or assistance from me, you're more than welcome to contact me at the email address, which I'll have in the show notes, but it's OneCuriousCarnivore@gmail.com. Take care of yourself.